I got a couple books that I bought kind of preemptively before this thing that I'll send to Charles and Evan. But they're super helpful. So one was, if you're more interested in how your actual palate and olfactory system works, it's a neurogastronomy book. And then there's another one that was just about how you taste and how beer and food pairings. I'll send, it actually wasn't that one. I'll send it to Charles and Evan so you guys have it. But they're super helpful just because I think the example portions of them are more helpful than anything because they tell you to pick specific beers. And especially like the tasting one, I read through like 3 of them and they were all beers that are available here. So you can actually like taste the beer while you're reading it and kind of see what the author thinks that these things taste and smell like. Because like I said, like everybody's palate's different, so things taste differently to everybody. But it's kind of a cool exercise to see what your palate is and where it's at. So it's good.
No, I got a lot.
Oh, that's right.
So anyway, I was in.
How's it going? Well, it's starting.
A little bit more about tasting in the test. Try not to eat anything that's like super flavorful that day. If you smoke, take a day or 2 off, just because it'll fuck with your palate a little bit. And then bring water. They'll probably have water. Drink a lot of water. Yeah, drink a lot of water that day.
What about coffee? What about coffee?
I would maybe avoid it that day just until like after you've done the tasting portion, just because it's so acidic, it might stick to your palate. But yeah, like try to not eat anything too crazy that morning, and don't smoke that day if you smoke. Take a day or 2 off if you smoke.
That's some decent amount of adrenaline anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're gonna be looked out already.
All right, so
Do a couple push-ups and.
as we're going through these, I'm going to continue to pour the others that we have, but just to give you guys the first ones to start thinking about. Is this an example of German Pilsner or Munich Helles?
There was nothing that hard.
This is exactly what was on the sample test.
Seriously?
Our hardest one was like, can you say yes?
Brown and borders.
I thought it was German Pilsner.
It was something, I remember it was something like that, and that was the bottom.
IPA, they were like right next to each
Yeah, those were the 2 that we had. Because the other one was Saison or Lambic.
The other one was Charlotte.
Okay, there you go. It's like,
Anything here.
We'll say this should, this will be the most.
well, I wrote down my first thoughts on
It's
it.
right off the test. I wouldn't have made this one up otherwise.
I guess. I put down, I should have blind sun on the nose.
That
So number 1 is. So Evan, on this portion of the test, it'll be like, this is one of these 2 beers. Which one is
It
it?
basically says circle one. Based on that sample thing, it makes it sound like you don't have to put a reason why. But I would do, German Pilsner or Munich Helles. And I would also try and form a reason and write it out of why you think it is one or the other, to the best of your ability, just because, I don't know, maybe they'll give you sympathy points if you get it wrong.
I could have used that.
You would know this if you ever logged on to take your certified beer server test.
I got till July. I'm trying to get through this, and then I don't. You have the time. You got to do it before like certain.
Oh, this
Yeah, you can't set up for it until let you apply.
I mean, I get that.
This is like some classic Cicerone beer conditions too, because I poured them in the pitchers that were in the infected room, and then let them sit there for a while, and then put them back in the refrigerator, which double infected them, and so now they're probably flat and terrible. But
What's the second?
so the second one, let me go back and check just so I don't. Second one is this an example of?
That's fine.
Marzen, German style Marzen, or American Amber Ale.
Oh, okay, good. I said, Jesus. Varsity versus Amber Waters hard.
Yeah. I saw that and like, clarify.
Rito, guess who's on a meeting with Emma today?
Oh, I know.
That guy right there.
Cute face.
Walked right in. Cute face. Cute face.
Cute butt.
This is being recorded.
That's my butt.
Yeah.
Feeling very unsure right now.
Chest hair is coming out through his work shirt.
No, I'm talking to whatever.
Thank you. They lost your taxes twice.
Why I'm not.
Is there a Martin or an American Amber?
Style guidelines here real quick. Actually.
They're not gonna let you do that.
Well, come on, Sharon, we're trying to study here.
Exactly. Learn from your failures.
Very nominally.
And what's 3? So 3 is, let me go check, I forget.
If I say something wrong, I'm gonna mess it up.
Triple pick.
All right, number 3 is either, Kolsch or American Blonde Ale.
Close to that one. Who's the other two?
God, I don't remember being this hard.
Make them this hard.
Or an American blonde.
Saison versus Laming bullshit that you guys talking
Marzen
about.
or
That's what it does.
That was the first one. Was Saison Olympic.
Made it super obvious. I can go with this one. Saison and Lambic was the first choice.
That was on our test.
Stupid ones on there, like Belgian Double or American
It did.
Ale.
Before it started real easy, and then the last one
That's not
was,
good practice.
can you taste the difference in the 2 malts that we used?
Yeah.
Basically, is what it is. It works out pretty easily. It started that way and goes to like, it was, IPA, Imperial IPA, and then it was Northern English Brown, or I think we said Dunkel, or something like that.
Yeah, or it's gotta be one of those two, I guess. Oatmeal stout or Russian Imperial or Winter Weiss.
Or American Ale.
This is a.
Or Saison.
It's definitely the same raspberry.
American Ale.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She's like hemorrhaging water.
What was the fourth?
So the fourth one is either American Stout or Baltic Porter.
See? Yeah. You had to do one.
I have a total wood there,
We actually did really well relative to the group.
Really? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, right, we got tied for third.
Really?
Who was
How
first?
long did that last?
Schumann dominated your ass.
See you at the flagpole.
And Dave was number 2. I mean, it's basically sorted out how I hoped it would, where people would have taken it before the better than
People have had.
It's the way you hoped it would be.
Stout versus Baltic Porter?
Yes, American Stout.
Anybody got a quarter I could flip?
No, I mean,
What's an example of Walter Porter?
Usually, like I said, name 5. I've got the food and 14 definition of Baltic.
that's what I said, I said name one, like you went 5, so it's 1. I'll put it at 1.
Yeah.
Batters.
Battery owners.
Battery Elmer.
One-eyed Elmer.
Battery owners. Still the 6 barrels inside.
Doesn't Floyd's do a Baltic?
Floyd's, top
switch.
Switch, yeah.
We've got one on now.
Well, that's not
And
fair.
that's,
It
Yeah.
tastes like this.
no, it does not.
Or an American Stout.
They were asking,
She said it's a sound.
Wait, more on the stouts. Is it a stout or more?
I did not.
Oh, I found American Stout.
I'm blind too. What was number 2?
Marzipan or American Amber Ale.
And 3?
Kolsch, American Blonde. Why do we get Danner for one of these classes?
Okay, just get, never mind.
I mean,
Social media is not.
Why don't we just develop a code for somebody who figures out that this is on the door to not
Same
fall
reason.
out something right?
Yes. You can actually
I'm telling you, dude, this is the
Same
last
role.
one.
Did you go back to some Patron shots all
Because
night?
we
I'm
could have
having like flashbacks to
the
the last
like director of brewer operations, and I was too chicken shit to ask. And then I mentioned to Mike, I said, oh yeah, it's really kind of.
Yeah, he could have done this in there.
I like mine.
You would have actually learned something.
I like mine.
No, we wanted him for a house.
I just remember Danner telling us.
Yeah, we didn't want it for this.
Wife's
You were our number
beer
one
choice.
Yeah.
Whatever, or blue beer. Remember what that was?
It was the wheat, and I ordered it thinking that it was over, I don't know, and it was some other bullshit.
I gotta go with
They
one.
had blue, and I was horrified because my beer was blue. Anderson, New York, interesting one.
Shit, I didn't do it. I didn't think anything after 5.
They've been spamming us.
Yesterday.
I didn't
Think anything. I wouldn't
Yesterday
think it
for sure.
Yesterday.
We were clear yesterday.
I'm
You're in the clear.
No, yesterday for sure I did. Today I did.
I need
something.
proof. Oh, this is, no, I need proof.
Day before.
just like a month.
No, they're sending this email out like a day late.
Okay.
Because this is.
Debbie crying in a corner.
Yesterday.
This isn't my doing. I
So-
didn't.
Well, I know, this, I'm glad you got
I got to that. This is after 5.
The day before we were clear, then the day
I was like, how it's going?
Yeah,
I said it off day after 5.
Yeah, right. Northern English brown. Yeah, I felt the same way. I screwed that one up, too. Those were the only 2 I wrong on the front, and then the back, I got the other 2. That's where it went. You missed 50% of the 50%, you're like, well, let's see.
I said they already said YOLO.
That's what it was.
Seriously?
So I ended up
Are they still
with,
there?
Not
I
one.
think my tasting ended up being a total score.
That was yesterday that I said
60 something.
Mine was right
So when they
at 5.
broke it all out,
It
it's
was
like,
literally at 5.
Nope.
It might have been like
Nope.
5 minute.
Nope.
No, it was exactly 5.
because they just
It
blended
was
it
exactly
into the
five.
total score. And I'm looking at the written.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, here's the
So that's not, I didn't miss anything.
Like drag. That's why I'm like, why would that count? It shouldn't count more than it is. That's the overall. Just some big ass runaround that pay us more money for the rent. Because that's Bob. Did you pass your written? He said, yeah, I passed written the first time we took my other one. So in between when he took it and when we took it, they said no. They said you can pass your taste, but you can't pass your written. Are you serious?
Watch this summer variety.
Unless I'm so confident, I think if you're 80 overall, I think my written score before they dragged me underneath it was 82 or 83. It wasn't really like a solid score where I could go, yeah. It was something like, I barely got past it, so it was just nothing I could do.
Right,
I would probably still, if I felt more confident about it, it's like a 70 will still, that'd be the problem. Like a 70 to pass the test, it could still drag the written down on it. I argue it now.
Right.
There's nothing I can do. So if I don't pass the tasting, or if I scrape the tasting, they still drag the rest of it.
I saw people like,
It's changed too. I took the old, when we were studying for it, I took the old test, they had the old sample test. That was the easy one. This one now actually is lining up way different.
Does anybody need more time?
No.
Okay, then let's do the old show of hands for number one.
Oh, God.
How many for German Pilsner? It's Orville's.
I know it is.
Nope, this one was a Munich Helles. Yes. Lastly, lager. So Munich Helles is going to be a little bit more malt driven, less bitter, some less floral hop. It's going to be similar to Pilsner, but with some hop character removed. So less bitter and less hop flavor and aroma. So less of that kind of floral, earthy, and all of that. So
What was that beer?
Schlafly lager.
That's the summer. So this is a Hellas style.
And this one was kind of interesting. It's kind of sulfurous, especially when it was first poured. That is a little bit more so, but I don't know. That's something that can be typical of a lot of German beers when they're fresh. And then that sulfurous character, but it's kind of green. All right, number two. What did we say it was?
Oktoberfest or
American Amber Ale. How many people voted for Marzen on this one? All right, Marzen is the correct answer.
Polliner or hacker?
This is in date is maybe a stretch. I think it goes out of date next month. But this is Hackershore Hackerfest.
Okay.
So I mean this. Let me actually taste it.
Did you really? Party pack. And can you give a rundown of what Marzen is?
Before you don't know.
Yeah. So Marzen is
all the time.
basically the equivalent for Oktoberfest. These days there are two real Oktoberfest beers out there. There's the Marzen and then there's the Fest beer. So Fest beer is kind of the modern, really what the actual beer consumed at Oktoberfest in Munich has developed into. So they've gone with something a little bit lighter and less rich. Because Marzen is generally darker in color. It's going to have a really distinct kind of toasty, deep, a little bit sweet malt character to it. Very malt driven, and that's going to be toned down really across the board for Fest beer. So Fest beer is a little bit more obscure just because it's something that's more common over there, especially at the festival, than it is here in the States. Most of the Oktoberfests that people are brewing here are in the Marzen style. So this is a Hackershore Oktoberfest, pretty classic example, but pretty old and kind of showing some signs of, I'd say a little bit of acetic aldehyde, a little bit of green apple, maybe a little bit of oxidation, but still, a little bit of that toastiness, a little bit of that sweetness. If this were an American Amber, then it would probably be a bit more bitter. And you could pretty much apply that across the board with styles that have American in front of them. Is hop content and IBUs are going to be higher. Perceived bitterness is going to be a little bit higher. But they'll also gravitate more towards like a, biscuity, toasty malt rather than toasty caramel malt. So the classic Marzens are gonna have just a more well-developed, deeper malt character, whereas American Amber is not gonna have that to the same extent for a number of reasons.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is Marzens are lagers. So that lack of lingering ale yeast on the back end is kind of what did it for me. Whereas that American Amber Ale, that lingering hop bitterness and that kind of ale yeast finish.
Although what I think makes it difficult in this case is some of those off flavors that are created in makes it more ale-like than it would be if it were fresh. So a little bit tricky, but I think again, there's really no hop character to speak of in this one. So American Amber would at least have a little bit more to balance it out. Next one. So how many people went with American Blonde for number 3? Okay, 3 split crowd. So that means it was a good one, good pick. This was in fact an American Blonde.
Yes.
So this was Victory Summer Love, actually. One that we just got in, fresh. BJCP guidelines have this as one of the styles for American Blonde.
One of the top picks.
And I always thought it was maybe a little bit bitter, but this is a great example of how perceived bitterness can sometimes be different than what the metrics or guidelines would suggest. Because in this case, you have a lighter beer, less malt, less sweetness going on from the get-go, so it's going to take less hops to make you perceive that the beer is more bitter. If that makes sense. Each hop addition is going to, shift the pendulum farther away from the sweet side and more towards hoppy. So because it's so light, you're going to perceive that it's more hoppy. Whereas if you had something like an American Amber or a porter or something like that, it's going to take more hops to achieve that same perceived balance. Pretty dead giveaway in this case is the American hop additions. So Kolsch is not going to have that. Kolsch is going to be all European hops. So that kind of floral, spicy, peppery, fruity, or not so much fruity, but earthy. And the American stuff, this is late editions of Citra and Simcoe. So you get some fruit and some kind of like pretty aggressive resin. So yeah, kind of like a peach and mango meets like dry pine needles, and I don't know, it's kind of dank. So pretty good.
I think the other thing, if you've had a Kolsch, I think Kolsch's have a very distinctive yeasty twang to them from that kind of ale yeast getting lager. There's a definite, if you go try Schlafly Kolsch, which is with Gaffel Kolsch yeast, or even Gaffel's available here in town, or even Daredevil does it as well. I don't know if Blackacre does a true Kolsch or not.
We have one.
But yeah, it's on every now and then. Right?
But
I think it's-
if you go try a Kolsch, you can definitely taste that yeast characteristic that is true of Kolsch's, and it's something I think when you get to those styles that saisons, Kolsch's, those kind of yeast-dependent styles, like those are dead giveaways. So look for those when you see is it Kolsch or American Blonde Ale, Kolsch should taste like this. So kind of look for those markers of those kind of yeast-driven beers, and they'll help you out easily.
Number 4, how many people went Baltic Porter on this guy?
I went to Orville.
This one actually was Orville. This is 10-year age Orville. So this was in fact an American Stout. This was Bell's Kalamazoo Stout. So difference in this case, something like Baltic Porter is going to be higher gravity, so 7 to 8.5%. So you'll get a little bit more body, mouthfeel, flavor, intensity, warming effect, since it's getting into the higher alcohol range. And then also, it's going to have a more subdued roast character and a little bit more dark fruit going on. So this one, pretty roast forward, and really none of that kind of dark fruit characteristic that's there. So, yeah, this one, none of these, I don't think too many, these are super easy. I think the blonde and Kolsch was probably the least difficult, in my opinion. But, yeah, I mean, so some others that they did on the test where, you know, if you guys, I think we've got a split crowd for most of these, meaning it's maybe a little bit challenging for some.
What was the American Stout again?
That was K-Zoo Stout. But I think if you guys can get used to, you know, tasting at this level, then by the time, if you can prepare yourself for these, to where you're knocking these out, with this, it's a little bit more granular, a little bit more specific. Then by the time you get to the test, you know, a couple of them, so the first one that we did, Pils or Unicals, that was pulled from the sample exam. Second one they had on here was American Pale Ale or Strong Bitter, which I think that most of you guys should be able to pick out pretty easily based on type of hops that are in there and some of that, you know, English yeast character. Third one they had was Belgian Double versus British Brown Ale. That should be a cakewalk. You know, Belgian yeast is going to be a dead giveaway, and English yeast is not even close to that. And the last one I would have done, but we actually already did this side by side, was Doppelbock or Wheat Heavy, which I thought was probably on par with the ones that we were doing tonight. So about half of these that they had as samples were, you know, moderately difficult, and then the other two I'd say were pretty easy. So I didn't really want to give you guys easy ones, because I don't think you'll learn as well that way. So,
I'm gonna go over a test.
yeah. So really not too bad across the board as far as how you guys did on these. You know, I was, again, maybe grading for a little bit more specificity than what they will on the test, will be on the test, where, you know, if you see, you know, this thing says 23 questions for those first 3 pages. If you're like Jesse and you got a -20, that's not, that doesn't actually mean you're missing 20 out of 23, because there's a lot of sub questions. Like there's quite a few. So this, you know, there would be partial.
Oh, I ranked Jesse there. That's not fair.
That poor guy.
Is that why he's not here?
Did we talk to him?
That's because I wasn't here.
Obviously.
So you guys don't like being here. But again, I mean, not to use it as an example, but there would be a lot of partial credit in all of these answers that would result in you know, a higher score on the actual exam than what you guys saw here. So a couple of them that I think are important to go over. There were a couple that that really everybody missed, or most people did. I would say most of the first few you guys did well with. There were a couple people that were maybe not paying as close attention to the wording of the questions as you should have. Like question number 5, characteristics of a beer that make it interesting to consume a year or more after its packaging date. Basically, what is a beer that you would look for, or what are characteristics you would expect from a beer that make it ageable or, you know, interesting to consume down the line? I think
Higher alcohol content?
yeah, so higher ABV, barrel aged. You know, you could say boozy, where if you age it, that character is going to subside after time. So some people interpreted it as what happens to a beer that you age for a year. So you said things that were right, just you didn't answer the question. There were a couple, you know, a few people did that on a few different questions. Not a huge issue across the board, but just a reminder to, you know, make sure that you're reading through the questions before answering those. Most of the draft stuff, we've said it before, just read the draft quality manual, read it multiple times, highlight it. Basically just memorize the shit and that's how you'll know. Because some of those things are kind of tricky and you know, you'll probably not know that you need to run your cleaning on a long draw system for 2 gallons per minute, minimum 1 gallon per minute for 15 minutes if you don't read that. Like, that's the only way to know. So just keep hammering away at that stuff. One thing, question number 10.
Would tavern hands be disqualified?
Probably not. No, they'd probably count that.
Just
They
a
just partially credit.
Yeah, I just think
credit
that's,
for the old man.
I think tavern hands are dumb.
A little lingo problem there.
Yeah, so the question number 11A. This was one that pretty much everybody got wrong, and I got wrong before I had to look up the answer. And the reason that the answer is, in the what blank, they're looking for temperature and where and how, temperature of cooler keg glycol system. Those answers are essentially the only answers because they're asking specific to a long draw system with this specific problem. Where if you think about it, I was actually in an account today where I saw this issue happening, and if you think about trying to troubleshoot in other ways, this is just the easiest place to start, and that's why they suggest that you check temperature, because in a long draw system, there's a lot of complicated shit going on, and if you're like, well, maybe this jumper line is clogged or something random, then you're gonna have a lot harder time checking that or fixing that than you are seeing if your keg is down to temp or if the cooler is on the fritz or something like that. So those were the answers that I inserted. I think most people's tests I filled in the correct answer. In some cases I might have gotten lazy and just wanted you to look it up yourself. But I think I put that on everybody's just because that's a kind of a specific question, kind of difficult. And then from there, 11B is just in that sequence of troubleshooting for a long draw system with this issue, then if you've checked temperature, then you check gas pressure and type of gas. So pretty specific.
Type of gas?
Yes, that's just what came out of the
Some places
meeting.
do blends. So you want to know if they do a blend or not.
Yep, exactly.
And make sure that their blend isn't hooked up backwards. There was an account last year that I had that their nitrogen and their CO2 were labeled correctly and nothing poured correctly until their installer came out and was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
All right.
So I mean, in a real life situation, if you run into that, just don't make assumptions. Don't assume that they've got it correct. Just trace those hoses from tank to blender box, and you know, you might find that some idiot was just like, you know, they didn't care or they weren't paying
Would the
attention.
answer for any of these questions be email Joe Setti?
Probably. Yeah.
In the
actually,
real world?
email draft
No response
services. Email draft services because Joe said
No
will
response
probably
back.
forward it to somebody else.
Joe said he will pass this along.
Does anybody have any specific questions on here that don't understand why the answer is what it is?
Bung would be an acceptable answer on that?
No,
What did you say?
it's not a bung.
That's what
A
happened.
bung is the little thing that goes in a barrel, not a cask.
Yeah, we did try and look that up after we left, and Keith